Morning, everybody. We'll call the Wright County Board of Commissioners meeting for September 21st to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for all being here. The minutes from September 7th. Does anybody have any changes, revisions?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the September 7th minutes.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Hewsome. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Review and approval of the agenda. Administrator Kelly.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to pull off consent agenda item A1 and send that to a committee of the whole. Perhaps we could just address that as an item for consideration later in the meeting to set a date.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the removal of consent agenda A1.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Wetter. For approval of the agenda with the removal of consent item A1 for future meetings. Any other discussions, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they would like removed for additional discussions?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Ketchmark.
yes, under planning and zoning, D is in David 1 for discussion.
Alrighty. Anything else? Anybody? All right. I'd look for a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, to approve the consent agenda with the removal of A1 and D1 for discussion.
I'll second that.
A1 is not for discussion.
Right, I'm sorry, just A1 and then D1 for discussion. Yeah.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Hewsome, second by Commissioner Vetch. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Ketchmark.
Yes, thank you. So this is the approval to fill a vacated solid waste administrator position, and I guess with the status of the compost facility, I'll put it as up in the air. I would suggest we hold off on that. The operations up there might change, the job description might change for this position, so I don't see the urgency that we need to move forward with filling that spot yet.
Commissioner Hewsome.
Mr. Chair, yeah, Administrator Kelly, is this a position, though, that's funded by, largely by SCORE funds? So is that under consideration, or is it appropriate to hold off and, as Commissioner Ketchmark said, take a look at the job description?
So the position, of course, we do get SCORE funds for the administration of the county solid waste plan, which this position is very heavily involved in, and those we'd like to keep that process moving. I realize there has been some discussions about the compost site recently and future direction of that. As per practice, the position has been posted. However, it is not able to be filled until approval today. So depending on the course of action that gets taken here, we will react accordingly. So,
Well, one of the things this person does, it's not just the compost facility, it's also providing the county's solid waste plan, which has to be done. And that's already kind of behind the 8 ball.
Well, Mr. Chair, that was kind of one of the questions I wanted to ask our attorney who kind of works with our waste management plan and wanting to understand what there is from a compliance side of it. And if we don't fill this position, who is going to do that, and what is the time frame that we have to do that?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Vetch, the EHO, Environmental Health Officer, really is the county's conduit between the county and the Minnesota Department of Public Safety, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency and the Environmental Quality Board. They really are kind of our conduit between those two state entities. And my fear is not having this position there. We're going to lose out on some solid waste planning initiatives that we could take place. And anything that comes forward as far as a EAW petition or EIS petitions that come forward, this position really manages those aspects for the county. I know there's one zoning issue out there right now where I think an EQB or, excuse me, an EAW petition is being sought, but I haven't heard anything finalized on it yet. So this position does, from a legal perspective, I believe that this position is needed and necessary, even if you decide that you want to do something with different with the compost site.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Ketchmark.
I would ask if there's any other county staff that can do the duties aside from the compost facility that would need to be done related to what you said we need to keep moving.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Ketchmark, I'm not aware, other staff in the planning and zoning office does septic inspections. I'm not sure as to the rest of their qualifications as far as environmental health management. Directly speak to that, but this would be more of a managerial policy position. And following through on our solid waste plan with some of our recycling goals and solid waste goals and licensing issues that we have to do, and also updating our ordinance.
The state does want us to come up with a waste management plan and come up with licensing all haulers in the county. Is that my understanding of the way that what the state PCA wants us to do?
Mr. Chair, yes, you are correct. As part of our 10-year solid waste plan that we adopted, I think it was approved 6 to 8 months ago.
Last year.
Yeah, last year at some point. They gave us till next summer to try to implement a licensing program for all haulers.
So,
Mr. Chair, a question for Commissioner Ketchmark, if I may. The question was, I guess I'm trying to understand, are you, because in some aspects I'm interested in where you're going with some of it, but not all of it potentially. I guess my question number one is, are you interested in holding off on this position to determine whether you really want the compost facility to be under that direction of that individual and you want to spend some time to sort it out? Or are you entirely trying to dilute this position altogether?
Well, in one way, I don't think that it's fair to pursue trying to fill the spot when there's so much up in the air with the facility out there, because the person comes in, if we hire them reasonably soon, if there is somebody out there, and without knowing the direction that we're going because of where we're at in that process. So if we go a certain direction away from the way that's set up or the way it exists altogether, then we have to rewrite job descriptions and different qualifications. Maybe we're looking for if we use it versus if we don't, because then we don't need that person. It's the pay grade. It's the whole thing. I just think we're at a good spot to take a time out and figure out what we're going to do with that part. And I don't know what percentage of that makes up this person's job. If anybody can weigh in on that, if it's 50 that, 50 doing inspections, or how that is. But
Sean, Sean, are you on?
I think he's online.
Yes, Commissioners, I'm what? Yes, you're virtual.
It's feverishly looking for that job description.
Yeah. Can you shed a little bit of light on the job description for this position?
I'm looking at it right now, and some of the special requirements, well, let me go back. Education experience, bachelor's degree in environmental sciences, biology, public health, or related field, and 3 years of experience in environmental health or solid waste, with some supervisory experience or equivalent combination. So the environmental sciences is not always the easiest areas to find people in. It's a challenging position to fill. And then also too, under special requirements, this person would need a MPCA subsurface sewage treatment system certification upon hire, hazardous waste operations and emergency response, and state of Minnesota hazardous waste certifications within 6 months of employment. So there are some certifications there that other people in the department don't have. So it's definitely has some specialized skills.
Mr. Chair, I guess one of the questions that I had for Sean, and I think Mike's or Commissioner Ketchmark's question was kind of the same, was how much of that job description really is the management of the compost facility and versus the environmental aspect of it?
Commissioners, I don't have that information available right now, but I can do some digging. When we did the initial assessment of Baker Tilly, when we kind of broke down percentages and what that position did or does on a daily basis, I can certainly get back to you with that information.
Mr. Chair, I think we should just hold this off for a week and and just sit down as a group and talk about it. I think we're going to get into pretty at length, and I don't think staff has the information in front of them to answer some of our questions.
We can leave it posted out there, though? We just won't hire at this point?
I think that's fair, just not knowing the outcome. I mean,
And not only that, because it's, like Sean had said, it's very difficult to fill this position probably, so if we don't hire somebody, it's no loss, but at least we can at least leave it out there to at least gather some potential candidates.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I don't know if we need to reword the ad, the posting or not, to reflect what we're doing, that there's possible delay or for a possible future opening or something like that. I don't know, I haven't read the posting now to see if there's any hard deadlines on when this would be filled or.
Well, it closes at a certain time.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, knowing that this can be a difficult position to fill, we had just posted it last week as a continuous. And then typically what we do is set a first review date after we've got a few applications that come in. So right now it does not have a closing date. It is listed as continuous, so.
Okay. That's all I had. Anyone else? I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the recommendation on D1 then.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Houston. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. And there will be more discussion to come when we get to our committee of the whole regarding this. Mr. Virgil Hawkins, Highway Department.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Board of Commissioners. Today, there's one item from Highway for your consideration. It's requesting acceptance of the 2020 Highway Department Annual Report, which was distributed at the board meeting August 31st, and also received a nice feature article that you maybe saw in the Annandale Advocate listing the highlights of the annual report. So that was nice to see, but if there's any questions.
Very thorough, thank you.
yes. Once again, great work.
Yeah,
Mostly by our highway accountant, Patsy Wojtaszek.
Yeah.
She did the lion's share of this work.
She-
Very
job.
accurate and good.
you've had a busy few years.
Yes.
Nice job.
As always.
Thank you.
And now hopefully the snow will hold off so that we don't use so much salt this year.
Yeah, we always wish for that, but it always comes.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to formally accept the 2020 Highway Department Annual Report.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank
Thank you, Virgil.
Thanks, Virgil.
Mr. Steve Job, County Surveyor.
Morning, Commissioner Delyden and members of the board. I'm here today to request signature for LiDAR funding partners. The first stage in the next acquisition of LiDAR is to apply for some federal grant funding. So this attachment that's included in your board packet would allow the state to go ahead and apply for the federal funds. just a little background on LiDAR. What we're going to end up getting is an elevation model of the county once again. Last time we did that in 2008, the county paid for it solely, and that was over $200,000. At this stage of the game and the partnerships that we put together in the state, we're going to systematically go through the state along with 40% grant matching from the feds, 30% from the counties, and 30% from local entities and other partners. So the mechanism is going to cost us only $58,000 for our share. That's a huge savings for the value of what we're going to get. And this LiDAR elevation model will be utilized by the Highway Department, Planning and Zoning, ditches, I forgot to mention that in my board packet here, and then the Wright Soil and Water. So the benefit back for what we're getting is unbelievable. So we're looking forward to it. Right now, the anticipation is to fly it in the spring of 2022, so this upcoming spring. That's contingent upon whether or not the grant makes it through the federal application process. So we're hopeful. The more partners and counties that come together and commit to it, the higher chance we get on the national level. So with that, in the packet is a form, attachment D. Either the board chair or Lee could sign on that with our commitment to the $58,000. And so everybody knows the funding's coming from the recorder's funds. So it's not levy dollars, it's coming from those funds, and it is in the CIP.
Does anybody have any questions for Surveyor Job?
I think, good to get this done, for sure, so.
Well, there hasn't been any changes since 2008.
No, well, that's true.
Just for a note, everyone knows we're building the complex out, what used to be a gravel pit for the highway department. So back when the building was being put up in the Justice Center before that, the big question Virgil Hawks, the highway engineer, asked me, he said, when are we getting new LiDAR? Because it used to be a big pile of gravel. And as you know, that's just one area of the county that's moving and shaking.
Yeah.
So.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Wetter?
I know LiDAR is extremely important and gives you a lot of information. The only thing it doesn't do is show tile and culverts. And so that is kind of a minus that way, but I think the rest of the information it gives you is just outstanding, so.
That's a very good point. For the fact that they'll be flying this with a fixed-wing aircraft, a small plane, with a LiDAR unit in there, they're going to get the entire coverage, but the supplemental information that you would need for the hydrology control systems, that would have to be supplemented by some ground control. But that's a lot of work off the plate for when you do the culverts and other inventories. With the buffer areas and the cleaning out of the ditches that the county's done, we should be able to see pretty good into some of those open ditches. It won't do the closed tile systems in a drainage ditch, but you should be able to see those ones quite nicely.
I'm a little surprised, though, that you don't have a drone.
No, I always thought I wanted one, and then the licensing and the regulations for it, I would leave that up to others.
Matt's got one.
Well, yeah, but it's still.
We did hire I believe yesterday our GIS specialist was the first day on the job, and that person does have license to fly, pursuing that for flying drones. So you never know.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve signatures for LiDAR funding. The early bird gets the worm, so hopefully.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Wetter. Is there any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
Steve.
luck with the feds.
Dr. Mattice. And again, doctor is an honorary title.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. 2 orders of business I have for you today. The first one is to accept a bid and authorize signatures on an agreement between Wright County Parks and Rec and Minnesota Native Landscapes on the Stream Bank Stabilization Project, Restoration and Management Project for Otsego County Park. That project's been in the CIP for the last couple of years. We finally got all our permits through DNR and Army Corps and you name it, and we got some low water. Now it doesn't stop raining, which is good. We need a little rain until we want to get some crops out of the field, then it can dry up again. So 50,000 CIP funds, $50,000 grant. We have a little bit of ARP funds for this there, and then there's some project dollars from Soil and Water that they're contributing as well for the funding of this project. The bids came in September 7th. The contract's in front of you today. Bids came in right about 106,000. Between the low bidder and the next bidder, there was a $206 difference. So very competitive bid process.
Mark, after this is all done, I'm assuming you have some pictures of what the bank looked like before you started.
Yep, we'll have
So some before and after pictures.
Those things, yes.
Just for some of the commissioners who don't get a chance to get over to that area to see it, how bad.
We toured it, when was that?
It was probably 3 years ago.
Is it?
Yeah.
So
It was
how-
washing
and how
away
bad it
pretty
really
darn.
was.
Yep, so we will have pictures before, after pictures. We have public information up on the kiosk right now, talking about the project. Because there's a lot of beautification and there's a lot of ugly in the beautification process.
Yeah, my brother sent me pictures yesterday.
The park is full of staging area right now,
Yep.
so.
Okay,
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Wetter.
I guess I got a question. Who watches this, make sure there aren't weeds coming up in it, and just keeping those weeds out, making sure, now that we're getting rains, that it doesn't wash? Will it be done yet this year?
Yes, the project will be done this year and seeded. Who will be maintaining it? In this contract, there's a 2-year after the project, so the next 2 years will be maintained by the contractor.
Okay.
Dan Nadeau with Soil and Water, Matt here with Ag and Drainage, and myself are all pretty involved in the project.
So you'll watch
We
that
watch.
there won't be a gullies formed from now the rains that we're
Yeah.
having?
Yeah, it's more the river issues than it is the overland flow
Okay,
erosion that we're trying to manage
okay.
and restore that area. So there'll be a lot of eyes on the project next few years. And then there are some native grasses that are associated with that. That'll go into our burning schedule. We burn Otsego Parks Prairie every 3 years to help with unwanted species.
Okay.
I'm sure the users of that park will also be keeping a close eye on it. That park is extremely heavily used.
is.
And they've been losing a lot of park land because of that river. So
Okay.
I'm sure that they'll,
Yeah, we're doing
on
about,
top of it.
Haven't
we're doing
been
about
there,
600
so I
feet
gotta- I
shoreline
gotta
there.
Take a trip.
Yeah. But since the two new commissioners haven't seen it, can you forward them pictures maybe of what it looks like right now? Or, on how far it's,
On the email machine or drop them off on a
whatever is gonna be the most
35
convenient.
millimeter like I.
Yeah,
Oh, gee.
but, I mean,
Yes, I'll actually,
we've lost
what I'll actually do is I
3 or
don't
4
have
feet of
pictures.
property over there, haven't we?
My time here, probably more than that.
So, I mean, it's dramatic.
Okay,
But yeah, actually today I'll run up and get pictures. I don't have any pictures of the staging area. That way I can just send them that to you too, so you can see that process.
Yeah, I can show them the picture of the staging area.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to accept the bid and authorize signature on the agreement between Wright County Parks and Recreation, Minnesota Native Landscapes for the stream bank stabilization, restoration, and management project at Otsego County Park.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Vetch. Is there any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you very much. Second order of business, a while back I came to you with the potential acquisition of 10 acres in French Lake Township. Told you I'd bring you back the appraisal. That was like May 17th. So appraisal came back at $48,000. Grant deadline was the end of July. I came here to ask permission to submit a hypothetical number based off of an acquisition we did a couple years ago. They allowed me to do that and then modify the grant request. So the appraisal, I believe, was in your packet. And land value, that does not include a building entitlement. The landowner has enough land that that building entitlement off that would be transferred. So it's $48,000. I think by end of November, we should hear grant status.
Okay,
So just kind of an update. If you had any comments or questions about that?
and this 10 acres, was this going to be for parking area or something?
I had the map last time. So it's on the east side of the south unit between that and the Alma unit, which has an easement connected. So yeah, it'd be like a trailhead parking. Right now, our easement comes across a low spot in the road and people are parking on the road. And not a very great situation for the people that are parking there or the people coming over the hill. So they provide us with trailhead access there.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Ketchmark?
That seems like a reasonable price, and then some, 10 acres for 48,000. Could you share what kind of ground this is? If it's peat ground, tillable, wetland, or what's that made up of?
It is mostly tillable ground, probably 95% tillable ground right now. It's in corn.
Okay.
A
Thank
little
you.
bit of a hillside.
Okay,
Yeah,
did we had the motion?
I don't think we need to vote, do we?
No, that's right, it's just an update.
At this
Yep,
point.
Yeah, just an update.
all right.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Mark.
Mark.
Got a couple of minutes. Items for consideration, committee of the whole. Commissioner Houston, can you do
Oh, you
that?
want me to do that instead of the 2?
Yeah,
Okay.
there'll be some, that'll take, I think, a
Okay.
little longer.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Committee of the Whole met on September 3rd, and the commissioners and many, Administrator Kelly and many of our staff were present. Discussion was moved from a Personnel Committee to discuss the COVID-19 Emergency Paid Leave, EPLSL, and Commissioner Vetch wanted some clarification for, whether the meeting was regarding the emergency paid sick leave or working remotely from home. There'd been a survey that went out, and so there was a lot of discussion about just what this was. And there was also discussion about, what is fair for all the staff, because the majority of the staff don't have the ability to work from home, and yet if they test positive for COVID and they have to use up their sick leave, it kind of becomes an issue with other employees. And also, the Delta variant doesn't have the same lengthy restrictions when you test positive for COVID. So anyway, Human Resources Director Sean Johnson said that the conversation was based on, for the Personnel Committee, and a different approach was taken. So Johnson contacted neighboring counties and cities, and the direction is more that rather than offering employees to work remotely from home, there is another option. If an employee is in a situation where that employee has exhausted all accrued paid time off, the county can bridge the gap for a 2-week period to keep the employee compensated. And there are 6 parameters identified that the employee must fall under to use the EPSLA, SL, sorry. Risk manager Tim Dahl said essentially when an employee tests positive for COVID, the guidelines keep the employee out of the workplace for 10 days. And currently the employee cannot work from home for those 10 days and instead must use the accrued PTO. A letter will be provided to employees explaining that the Families First COVID Response Act provided time off from April 1st to 2020 to December 31st, 2020 has expired. And so anyway, there was kind of a lot of discussion whether they can use catastrophic time off and how that would all work. And oh, I lost my second page. Yeah. Here we go. I lost my second page. got mixed up in here. Oh. So, there we go. I found it. So anyway, we had a lot of discussion, and we determined that we could provide, use our from September 7th, 2021, and we could use the ARP funds to provide 10 days for employees, and this would take us from till January of 2022. So, sorry, with my back and front seats, I had it and I lost it. So anyway, basically that is the recommendation that this policy started on September 27th, 2021. Will run through January 31st, 2022. And the committee's recommendation for human resources staff to contact other counties, and that has all been done. So with that, Mr. Chair, I will move the minutes and the recommendation.
Mr. Chair, I'll second it with just some clarification, just so everybody understands from the public. This policy was put in place. It's entirely funded through, as Commissioner Newsom stated, through ARP, and it's for those that have already exhausted all of their PTO at this. So it's, I guess the policy is pretty stringent. It's not just you can run out of PTO and say you're staying home. You have to have some documentation to it. So I know from a constituents' point of view, some of them are concerned that we're just giving people additional time off, and that's not the case.
Correct. Yeah, we really, had a lot of discussion. People can read the 2.5 pages of minutes, but we wanted to find the most equitable way to apply to all of our employees. So.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Houston, a second by Commissioner Vetch. Administrator Kelly, do you have anything that you want to add to this at all?
Not at this moment. I think as we have some discussion on policy 3 and 400 that was mentioned earlier, it might be good to review this again, just to give you an update on how things are going. So,
does anybody else have any other questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. All right, we have 9:33, so we have a public hearing regarding the reestablish of benefits and for ditch 14.
Actually,
and
excuse me,
partial
Mr. Chair, that
abandonment.
heading is incorrect.
Yeah.
This is a petition for a partial abandonment. I can go into it if you'd like, Mr. Chair.
Please do.
Yes, this is a public hearing on the partial abandonment of County Ditch 14 under Minnesota Statute Section 103E.806. The purpose of this hearing is to gather evidence as to whether or not the part of the drainage system sought to be abandoned serves a substantial useful purpose or substantial public benefit and utility. This is an evidentiary proceeding. The proceedings are being recorded in order to preserve the record. The order of business for the hearing will be as follows. First, the drainage supervisor will present an overview of the County Ditch 14 and the petition for partial abandonment. Following the staff presentation, the petitioners will be permitted to present any evidence on their request to the board. After the petitioner has made their presentation, the matter will be open to the public for comment. The board would like to hear any of your comments on the proposed partial abandonment and any information relevant to that purpose. Specifically, the board is interested in whether it is missing information used to define the public purpose, use, benefit, or utility of the portion of the system sought to be abandoned, the extent and basis for any benefits or damages for the portion proposed to be abandoned, whether and how your land drains to the portion proposed to be abandoned. Though information may be presented regarding the current condition of the drainage system, this hearing is not an appropriate time to discuss issues related to possible future actions, such as repairs on other portions of County Ditch 14. If such actions are warranted, the Drainage Authority will initiate separate proceedings to discuss those issues. The purpose of this hearing is to review the petition on a partial abandonment of County Ditch 14. If approved, the partial abandonment would remove responsibility of the Drainage Authority to accept a repair petition to make any repairs in the section of the ditch system. During the public hearing, commissioners may ask questions of staff or the petitioner, making presentations, and other commenters in order to clarify their testimony. In addition, if a member of the public asks a question and a commissioner believes that a response from the Drainage Authority staff can readily resolve the question or enrich the testimony, the commissioner may ask the chair to have the appropriate staff member speak to the question. The board chair will exercise his judgment as to whether to allow such discussion. Board discussion will occur after all members of the public have had a chance to speak and the public comment period has been closed. Board discussion may occur and be concluded at this point or a subsequent meeting as the board decides. If a member of the public would like to make a comment, please stand and address the board when you are recognized. Speak clearly and state your name and address for the record. If you have a specific question concerning the petition, we may ask our drainage supervisor or legal counsel to respond. If you have anything in writing you wish to submit, you can provide it to me or to the board chair before the close of the public comments, and we will note its receipt into the record. Mr. Chair, I stand for any questions that the board may have at this time. Otherwise, I yield my time back to the chair.
Does anybody have any questions for Attorney Kreiser? All right. I want to thank everybody for coming to today's public hearing. To ensure that all wishing to comment on the proposed viewers report, on this partial abatement.
Read the paper one.
What paper one? Oh, that's why. Send me old stuff. To ensure all that wishing to comment on the partial abandonment may have time to speak, I may limit the time to any single speaker to 3 minutes. Please limit redundant or repetitive comments. Would any of the board members wish to offer any further remarks before we begin?
Pretty clear.
If not, Mr. Matt Detchen, please present the petition for the partial abandonment analysis and recommendations.
Should have the petition as board packets there. The petition was submitted by Cheryl and Andrew Bergdorf. Andrew come in earlier, so he can talk a little bit more about his petition. The recommendation, we did have a previous petition for full abandonment on this ditch system. This petition is for a partial abandonment of the ditch system under Minnesota Statute 103.806. A little different procedure last time, and so,
You didn't have a map to put up at all?
yeah, I was just going to. Yeah, so why I'm getting that up, this is one of the systems we did speak with the local Wetland Conservation Act supervisor and the DNR. There is obviously public waters on this ditch system in Mary Lake. There's public water wetlands and wetlands administered by WACO, or the Wetland Conservation Act. So their recommendation essentially, when I just asked them, to the extent could this be repaired, what would need to be done, there would be substantial work that would need to be done as far as permitting. Allow any sort of repair. So the map here, which I can show, doesn't have anything to do with drainage to be, because this is Mary Lake. Ditch 14 serves as the outlet of Mary Lake. Runs through this wetland here, which is a wetland covered by the Wetland Conservation Act. Has existed for more than 25 years. Then flows down into another wetland area, which is also considered a Type 3 wetland, which would be protected under the Wetland Conservation Act and would be subject to the 25-year rule if repairs were completed on the ditch system. The original purpose, from what we can glean, in the records when this ditch was established, is that this ditch was meant to drain certain areas of Mary Lake itself, pasture land, farms around it. Main purpose of the ditch was to drain the lake. I believe, just by reading the petition, that the petitioner against doing anything that would lower the level of the lake or similar thing.
So which area was actually the partial abandonment, that whole area that you had showed there?
Yeah, the majority of it would leave. A description here, you have like a legal description of the sections that would be abandoned. Essentially, it would still be leaving the township road culvert as a part of the ditch system.
Mr. Chair, is there any control structures on that part exiting the lake, or is it just natural flow?
Yeah, I mean, the quote-unquote control structure would be this culvert under the road, and that's why the petitioner opted to leave that in there, leaving that culvert at that same size and elevation as what controls the lake levels for Lake Mary.
Does anybody, any other commissioners have any additional questions for Matt?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
So, and Andrew Green and the DNR didn't have any problems with this being abandoned, right?
No, I'd say they probably in favor just due to the response and the work that would be involved in having to do the work, you know, having dealt with quite a few of these types of ditch systems, both dealing with public water, wetlands, public waters, and WACA, you know, there would be, if the ditch was repaired to its legal depth, there would be some sort of replacement under the Wetland Conservation Act, form of mitigation. How we approach that would be, you know, do our own banking or purchase the credits, but obviously, as we know, that can be kind of, and the DNR have any interest in lowering the lake level of Lake Mary.
So is Lake Mary, I guess I'm not really knowledgeable, is that quite developed? Are there a lot of homes on it or not? Is it more of a natural environment lake?
There are a few homes. You can see some of the plots up here on the essentially the northeast side of the lake here. I believe Dr. Bergdorf lives on the west side here.
Yeah.
There's the church, not extremely heavily developed.
Okay, on the other side of the road, I believe there's some people that live there and they had some water problems in their backyard.
Yep.
And will this hurt them or, you know, improve their status in their backyard or not?
Yeah, with the petition to abandon, we would remove all jurisdiction to repair any of the areas that are the petitioner is petitioning to partially abandon. So we wouldn't do any maintenance. They would, you know, repairs or anything in the future that would have to go through the appropriate regulatory authority, whether that's going to the wetland, which would be WACA, or like Public Waters Works.
Anybody else have any questions? All right, with that, we're ready to hear from the members of the public who wish to comment. Again, please wait to be recognized, state your name and address as to begin your comments. Dr. Berghoff, as the petitioner on this matter, do you have any comments?
Thank you. So I'm Andrew Bergdorf, 1812 Highway 25 South. To simplify this in less than 30 seconds, Zion Lutheran Church came to us wondering what this was and wondering how they were being benefited by this agricultural wetlands. And so we figured it out that we actually owed half of their bill. And so that's how it came involved. So it's 1911. In 1911, this agricultural ditch was created to drain Mary Lake to have pasture land. That no longer is the purpose. So our petition is to abandon the area north of 10th Street, which is all underwater under the lake, for obvious reasons. It's not forming the function of a ditch. and to abandon partially the section south of 10th Street because that's all wetlands and it's not benefiting folks, and it's under the DNR jurisdiction anyway. So that would leave, like Matt's saying, only the culvert underneath the 10th Street, which has obvious benefits. That's it. Thank you very much.
So do you own this property where this goes through then?
No, we happen to own the property which was outlined, so we were one of the folks that have in practical benefits, but in theory now, because these are the farms that were benefiting back in 1911. So we happen to be one of the property owners, along with the church and others.
Okay. Any commissioners have any questions for the doctor? Okay. Is there anybody else here that would like to address anything regarding the partial abandonment for ditch 14? Is there anybody here that would have any comments for partial abandonment of ditch 14? If not, one more time, anybody have any statements regarding partial abandonment of ditch 14? Does anybody have any written materials they wish to present? All right, there being no further testimony from the public, I close the public comment portion of the hearing.
Sure, I believe our drainage and agricultural supervisor sent you all a proposed resolution. If you want to adopt that, you're more than welcome to, or
Mr. Chair,
take
I'll make
further
a,
direction.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to direct staff to prepare an order granting on the partial abandonment of County Ditch 14, consistent with the records on file and the comments and the evidence received during the public hearing, as well as the guidance from the board. And I move that on to October 19, 2021, to which the board will continue the matter for the purpose of considering and adopting the order.
Could I actually change that to next Tuesday, September 28th?
That fast? Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can do it. All right.
It'll be done.
So to September 28th, or, yeah, 28th, isn't it? Yeah.
28th.
Would be correct, yes.
Mr. Chair, I will second that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Hewsome. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a resolution. Roll call vote. Commissioner Ketchmark.
Aye.
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 Resolution carries unanimous. Thank you, Attorney Kreiser, and
Don't forget the doctor.
yeah, good doctor. Sorry about that.
Thanks for coming. Explain something better.
All righty. Items for consideration. Administration, adopt resolution setting the 2022 preliminary levy. Administrator Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As part of our annual budget process, we are required to adopt a preliminary levy. Must be done prior to September 30th, 2021. Included in your packet is a proposed resolution which summarizes the levy as it was left at the end of our many budget sessions that we had. At this time, the levy would be $87,959,318. I will stand for any questions, and the next item would be to set a truth and taxation meeting following this.
So, Mr. Chair, just because some of the numbers that came back are substantially different, I want to have one last crack at this, and I would ask that we move this to September 28th and set a committee of the whole for this Friday, since we have a 3-day posting window to review this one last time.
Anybody have any comments?
Guess I'd rather have it Monday, but yeah. Is that a motion to? set it on
I'm okay
Friday?
keeping to, it's not a motion discussion at this point. I'm okay with either Friday or Monday. I just, those are our two options because it needs to get adopted on next Tuesday. So
Yeah, I guess-
it's just cleaner for staff when we do it on Friday because they can turn it around a little bit quicker.
I mean, I could do it Friday too.
In the morning?
I've got a, I'd be available after 10:30 or
So
11, I would say pretty soon.
I'm good whatever on Friday all day. So whatever you guys want to do on Friday. Otherwise, I'm good anytime on Monday too. So.
Commissioner Ketchmark?
I missed what was on the table here, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Vetch?
I can speak to them. So, just because we need to look at it, because some of the numbers that came back from a taxpayer impact and some of the information here on, and some of the numbers, I want to look at maybe making some last minute modifications to the levy.
Oh.
Yep, so before we adopt it today.
I'm not available Friday, I am Monday.
That's fine, we can go Monday. Let's see, Monday.
Minister Kelly?
Monday works
Issue?
better for me,
right.
checking staff schedules promptly.
Cloak and Dagger? Any issues? Yeah, I know, you'll sneak in.
He wears his invisible cloak.
All right?
10 a.m., 9, 10, 6 a.m.
No.
10 is fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Right. Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to hold off on this budget resolution and to set a committee to hold for 10 a.m. on Monday, September 27th.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Hewsome for budget of the whole meeting on Monday, 27th at 10 a.m., you said? Anybody have any questions, discussions? Do we want to direct staff to try and come up with some ideas on how we can reduce this?
Yeah, I'll have some discussion, so.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Look at that. Folks already leaving to try and figure out how to do it. All right. Let's see. The next one we don't need to discuss. Do we want to still set a special board meeting to discuss the 2022 budget and levy? And we can still do that.
We typically adopt at the same time we adopt preliminary levy. We have to do it on the same day per statute.
So we'll still do
I would say it's probably easiest to hold off at this point.
them on Tuesday? Okay. All right. So let's move on to committee minutes, county board workshop. Commissioner Ketchmark.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So workshop minutes from September 14th, 2021. Starting with number 1 was schedule meetings as needed. So we scheduled committee of the whole meeting for 12:30 Monday, September 20th regarding American Rescue Plan. So we had that yesterday. And the other recommendation there was schedule a Broadband Committee meeting for 7 p.m. Wednesday, September 22nd. So that's tomorrow. Next item was Great River Regional Library. So we had library staff was here to give an update on library operations. They noted there are 32 libraries in 6 counties, and we have 9 of those libraries in Wright County. A couple of points of interest as far as the budget. Wright County will contribute approximately $2.1 million in 2022, which is approximately $29,000 more than in 2021. They shared with us the initiative to stay library fines free, which started in 2019. The question was asked about the reserves that the library has in Typically, it's 5.74 months, a total over $2 million in reserves for library operations. Next item was the Central Mississippi River Regional Planning Partnership, or CMRP. So Commissioner Vetch's been a member of this for a long time, gave an update about trying to get a river crossing from the Wright County side to the other side, wherever that may be someday. So good update for me in particular that didn't have a lot of this information before, but there's partnerships amongst the counties and cities to try and develop the river crossing that didn't progress as they had hoped, so they had changed kind of the initiative to work on other types of development that they could agree on. And the main thing is to agree on what each side of the river wants to use their land for, and to see if they can come up with an agreement for a crossing in the future. There's a few items of strategies that were noted, land use strategies, there's economic development strategies, and some interconnection strategies that were shared. Fourth item was the compost facility structural assessment. Risk manager Tim Dahl and building director Alan Wilczek were on hand to share observations that they found out at the compost facility. I'll just note on the third paragraph here for a correction, or it says I questioned something. It should be if the property should be posted out of service rather than if some areas should remove the out of service sign. There isn't out of service signs out there currently. Director Wilczek advised that this has been under the eye of the planning and zoning as far as all the operations. Facilities has been involved in fire extinguisher checks and eye washing stations and cleaning of the bathroom. He noted several of the electrical or safety concerns have not been addressed. Assistant County Attorney Kreiser addressed the hazardous waste drop-off as a government service to the residents of the county free of charge, and mentioned that a lot of the money that runs that operation comes from what's called the SCORE funds that were given from the state. There were questions about what we were mandated to do out there. Wilczek was advised that he would be taking over, his department would be taking over the maintenance of the facility. Attorney Kreiser shared that there's a couple of new items coming down from state agency, that the county's going to have to license garbage haulers, and that the MPCA wants the counties to centrally locate the recycling operations. Currently, there's about 19 different contracts for recycling in Wright County. Recommendations besides Wilczek and the facilities department taking over management of the compost facility was Wilczek will have the compost facility rekeyed and control who has access. Commissioner Delyden will check into the records being stored in the administration building. Commissioners who are interested in taking a tour of the site will set up a time, which brings that to, I set up a time on Thursday and did a field trip out there. And I talked to Chairman Delyden about my findings out there. I guess I'll just sum it up. Words really can't describe it unless you see it yourself. And I don't know how many have been out there and when, but I can honestly sum it up as unsafe, unsanitary, and not fit for county staff or the public to occupy. That was the observations. Alan was there with me. If you want more descriptions of particular things, I can give those to you. Everything from the fire suppression system, when that's been checked, to using a heat lamp to keep it from freezing, and there was evidence of water damage from different pipes bursting in the past. Unmarked barrels that presumably could be for fuel of some type out there. There's a lengthy list, but if you have a question, otherwise maybe it'd be good if everyone took a field trip out there.
once we get through these minutes and stuff, I do want to set a committee of the whole for us to all tour out there at the same time. So we're all seeing the same thing. And then we can have some discussions later on regarding that facility. I know it's been discussed ever since Commissioner Hewsom and I were also on the board about doing something with that facility. I mean, it's slowly been deteriorating. But we do need to look at it and try and figure out. But again, a lot of it has to go back to what's mandated we have to do as far as requirements. And regarding this recommendation, the facility department was not going to take over management of the compost facility. It was just to do the repairs. So that's incorrect there.
Well, Mr. Chair, I think it was, they were going to do the repairs, but they were going to manage access. Because I think that was the piece that I had. They were anybody that was
Access keys.
access keys and contracts. If anybody is going to be storing things out there, that was going to go through Alan's office in terms of leases or rental. So it's a kind of a management piece to it. They're not going to actually manage the day-to-day operations, but they're going to manage.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Ketchmark?
And I'm hopeful that county staff is working on an inventory piece of what's out there, who has what, and it may involve something as running registration numbers on trailers and serial numbers on things we can't identify as to what the ownership is, and then getting our legal office involved as to how long we have to hang on to these things if it's unclaimed and abandoned before it gets disposed of or put on public auction. But it sounds like there's liability waivers and agreements that are in the works, and as far as repairs, I don't know how you do some and you leave some go. I think it's kind of an all or nothing, and the expense that it would be to bring it to the level that it would need to be, I just don't see it happening. But I mean, I think we got to be careful if we're going to tell somebody to do anything.
Again, let's wait until we all take the tour and have the discussions after that.
Mr. Chair, kind of, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm almost inclined to put Alan as the interim management entirely, because right now that environmental position isn't even filled. We're talking 60 days at least till something would even probably be into that spot. And he's out there already frequently. His staff is out there frequently because they're working on trying to repair stuff. So I'm almost kind of inclined for an interim period of time till we figure out what we're doing with this environmental officer position. But open to discussion.
Administrator Kelly, your thoughts on such a thing?
Well, I certainly, we appreciate clarity from the board of what actions you like to take place. I think certainly Alan has been working on the rekeying and the access piece. There is a fair amount of activity that goes out there. If that is the desire of the board, I would encourage we set a date, kind of an end date to this if you're going to go that route.
Mr. Chair? Probably that should be done after the minutes and the recommendations have been approved, and then we could, as point of order.
Or I just didn't know if we were going to include that as part of the recommendations.
Oh,
Comes clarity to the
we could
recommendations.
add that to the,
Yeah, because it does state that he was going to
okay. So we
take over management of the facility, so.
Just add as interim for the next 60 days, or 90 days, whatever we think we need.
So we could just keep it over management. We could keep it the way it is.
Yeah,
Maybe we can
that's
ask
why, yeah. Ellen, do you have any comments? We don't want, I mean, would you prefer that we had the Veterans Office do it?
Well, there was good.
You want me handling waste?
Good morning, Board. Happy to step in and do what I can with the site. I think that we're going to just kind of hang tight a little bit until we have the committee of the whole and get everybody through it and get an understanding and grasp of what operations should look like out there, or anticipate what you envision it looking like. We're just going to kind of hang tight until that point. As far as managing the operations out there, I'll be honest with you, I have no experience with the hazardous household waste environment or kind of process. Happy to work with the staff out there and Tim as far as safety processes from that standpoint, and kind of just, moving that forward. Operations, just trying to make them safe as we can. But as far as the actual operation of that field, I guess, I'm not sure. I don't have a lot of experience, or quite honestly, much of any in that field, but happy to help in where I can and work with that crew out there. Just kind of looking for direction, I guess, when you say turnover operation of the site, what does that mean?
Yeah, I think what it is just to have somebody kind of manage those 2 employees out there, just so they have somebody to report to, because right now they really don't have anybody to report to.
Sean at Planning and Zoning, but he never goes out there. At least Alan's out there.
I guess that's up to
Well, you know what?
Kelly and
Let's leave it as it is right now, but we'll have further discussion after we have our tour out there.
Yeah.
And then we have a committee of the whole regarding that facility.
So,
But continue as, getting everything rekeyed so that we have control over who has access to that facility. That's definitely a top priority.
Mr. Chair, just one kind of note on that, commenting on the key. We plan to rekey the gate, which would secure the perimeter. The other structures are currently operation-wise unlocked on a couple days a week that they're open. So in theory, if somebody were coming to the hangar structure on a day they're open, they could just drive in whether they had a key or not. So just to kind of clarify, that space I think they're 2 days a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays maybe, that they're open currently. Somebody could drive through and go back into the hangar. So just wanted to clarify that I'm not going to be able to lock down everything,
Right.
especially on days they're open.
That's fair.
Yep, that's understandable.
Mr. Chair, for that committee of the whole, I just want to know what our traffic has been for the last 6 months over the summer, just because I want to know. And also I wanted to get your opinion. I mean, based on what the traffic is and that demand that's out there, do you feel comfortable enough in the condition that it's at to continue operations? That's where I'm looking. We're getting out there. I want to know what we're looking at for traffic. What's the impact if we shut it down for a period of time to get things?
Yeah, commissioners, to kind of comment on that, I have almost no involvement prior to this turnover. So, a couple months ago, I was out there doing a walkthrough on a few things, but prior to that, this is not a facility that was under facilities team. It was under planning and zoning, so I don't have much background of what the operation's been like on that site, in the past 6 months, as you mentioned, or the past year. It would really come down to the operations. If they're logging people as they come in and drop things off, that's probably the best way to gather. But I don't know what that operation is and what they've done. So I can help look into that and touch base with the staff out there to see what traffic trending is like. I know they do have some cameras showing the traffic lane coming in. They may have some data that can help with that, but I don't have any experience with that site prior to the past couple weeks, I guess.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Ryder?
we hired that consulting, what was it, an engineer or whatever, to look at
At the hangar.
hangar,
And the other
and
part,
he didn't seem to think there was that much wrong with it.
With the hangar.
Yeah, just with the hangar.
But then
So
there's
what
the other.
did you see?
But he's not talking so much as the hangar as the facility itself.
Oh, the whole facility, is that what you're?
Well, Mr. Chair, if I may, I had the pictures I think everyone else had, but as far as the hangar, you got the cracked purlins and missing tension rods and gates, chain link gates being held up by chain on rusty supports in the hangar, and the stacking of unknown fluids in barrels with a pallet and another stack of barrels on top of that. And there's just a lot there, but we have a risk manager that's got reports and pictures, and he can maybe weigh in. We got things with the county staff, if we're gonna have them out there, I mean, we got a part-time employee that's walking around in white t-shirt and shorts, and do you have any high-vis clothing? No, I wasn't given any. we got a forklift zipping back and forth with no backup buzzer, it's kind of look out, you know, where is it coming? The lighting isn't good in that building. There's a lot of the fixtures where the bulbs are gone.
So now you have switched from the hangar to the building itself, so.
Right.
Again, let's.
She was wondering what else I saw.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
So I can wear my hard hat when we do this committee.
So, Risk Manager Tim Dahl, I believe you're online, aren't you?
I am, Commissioner.
Since you are our risk manager, and we've always accused you of costing us a lot of money because of making sure that we're safe, what is your opinion of the facility?
I mean, obviously, this is a great discussion, you know, and as Administrator Kelly had alluded to, you know, the committee of the whole on the site will be good. I guess, you know, we provided reports, we provided the findings. I guess I'm not really sure of the question that's really being asked of me.
Okay. All right, then let's, is there a particular date that works for anybody? We're gonna be here on Monday. Do we wanna do it Monday afternoon after we head out, after we get done with our budget?
Monday's good for me.
Is that too soon for everybody?
Is that like 11 o'clock kind of thing?
Not soon enough.
Like 11 o'clock
11.
after? You think we need it more?
Yeah,
than
that
that?
budget meeting, we should be able to be done
An
in
hour?
under an hour, so we can be out there 11:15 by the time we drive. Yep.
Do you have human services that day at 1:30 or not?
No.
No.
Okay,
I believe so.
all right.
Administrator Kelly, does that all work okay?
Yep, that should work fine. I
Alan?
believe.
Works for me.
Mr. Dahl,
Yes, Commissioner,
does that date work for you on Monday?
it does.
All right. So I will look,
You guys should, you wanna make that as part of the recommendations?
yeah, let's make it part of recommendations.
You wanna go with that? Approve the minutes and recommendations, Commissioner Houston? Or who did that?
I did that. So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendations from the compost facility
Well,
additions.
workshop.
Workshop.
Well, he hasn't finished the workshop.
Oh, yes, wasn't that the
No.
last item on the
No,
workshop?
there's one more.
Oh, that's
Oh,
right.
One more, but we got the addition recommendation there as the committee of the whole meeting on Monday,
Sorry.
September 27th. Okay, then number 5 item was Alina Clinic Memorial Monument. Discussion on what the statue would look like, where it would be. Casting Creations was involved and inquired about the statue. Administrator Kelly was weighing in on where the statue could be placed at one of the new buildings, Law Enforcement Center or Justice Center. Alan Wilczek advised that there's already a Veterans Memorial and an Employee Memorial plan for the front of the new Government Center, and he inquired on county guidelines for placing memorials at the new campus. Commissioner Vetch suggested the memorial be at a park in the city of Buffalo. Assistant Finance Director Heather Lemieux clarified and advised that taxpayer dollars cannot be used for memorials. And Commissioner Ketchmark advised that constituents' consensus was that the memorial should be on a line of property and that no tax dollars should be spent. Recommendation was schedule a Ways and Means Committee meeting to continue discussion regarding the Alina Clinic Memorial Monument. With that, is there a motion to approve? I'll make that motion to approve the minutes from the workshop with the amended recommendations.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Ketchmark, second by Commissioner Vetch. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion carries unanimous. All right. After we tour the facility, we're going to have discussions regarding that facility.
Correct.
Does anybody have any issues with having that discussion take place after the board meeting on the 28th.
That's fine with me.
I'm good. So we're gonna have a follow-up committee the whole on September 28th.
Well, as long as it'll all be fresh in our minds and we need to move on this, I think that would be prudent to do that. Administrator Kelly?
Works for me.
Thoughts? Works for you? Okay. So can I have a motion to do that? So we'll probably figure 10:30.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to set committee of the whole regarding the compost facility for September 28th at 10:30.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Newsom, second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Commissioner Batch, Broadband Committee.
So last week on Wednesday, September 14th, or no, is that Tuesday? I don't know every day. Tuesday last week, the Broadband Committee met. Number of people in attendance. So we had an update from Design 9 on our feasibility study. So after a couple of weeks of it being out there, or a month better, they had 5,659 responses. Pretty impressive. One of the big highlights about it is 96% of those respondents stated that internet access to their households was either important or very important. So, which speaks loudly. 41% of the respondents stated that they were dissatisfied with the speed that they currently have. That portion, if nothing else alone, really stated that we have quite a large issue here in the county as far as broadband goes. They're still wrapping up their feasibility study. They have an informational meeting with the public this week on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. If any of the board members like to attend. I am unfortunately not going to be able to be there. It's my daughter's birthday that night, and we had some long-standing plans out there for my daughter.
What? I mean, a public hearing regarding broadband is not a good celebration
I know.
for your daughter's
I
birthday?
tried to ask her to go to it, and she said, nah, thanks. She'd rather go out to dinner and some other stuff, so.
Kids.
I know,
Yeah,
I couldn't
kids.
win. Anyways, on the other note, more to come. The feasibility study should be wrapped up here somewhere in the middle of October, so we'll get the deliverables on that. So that will really give us, hopefully, a chance then to develop a systematic plan to hopefully start putting something in the ground, either ourselves or with the partnership of ISP providers. The second item that we discussed was the updates from Flaherty and Hood. Flaherty and Hood is the firm that we are working with to help us establish grants and to help us determine whether we can use different funding mechanisms together. So they have done some research, and there's some questionability as to whether we could use the American Rescue Plan funds as a matching funds for border-to-border grants. So that is likely not going to be a possibility. So that was one concern. Also, the Flaherty and Hood is doing some help with us in trying to get some direction for our townships with franchise agreements and right-of-way agreements, because that has been historically an issue in the county in trying to move these projects along swiftly. We don't want, once the fiber's ready and these ISP providers come forward with these contracts, we don't want the townships to struggle to be able to get it done in a timely fashion, and in which case, sometimes in the past, some of these ISP providers have passed by some of those townships because they couldn't come to a swift resolution on the right-of-way and franchise agreements. So the meeting was informational only. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes, and there is no recommendations.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner motion by Commissioner Batch, second by Commissioner Houston. Is there any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Administrator Kelly, if you would give us a synopsis of the budget committees, which were many.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Before you is 8 sets of minutes. I don't intend on going through each set of those in great detail, other than to provide kind of an overview summary. These were the minutes from the 8 days of budget meetings that we did have, starting with the kickoff on the 16th of August, going through the 13th of September. We've tried here to reflect the decisions that took place and the attendance at each meeting. I would note that these are in chronological order. Some items will change throughout, as we did start with a levy close to 12% and work our way to where we're at today and waiting with further discussion. So each of the sets of minutes has a recommendation kind of coming out of each discussion that we had with the individual departments, as well as who attended. So just as a high-level summary, that's maybe where I'll stop unless you wish for me to dive into the individual sets of minutes. So traditionally, we've adopted these just as one motion. So.
Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, I will approve the Budget Committee of the whole minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Batch, second by Commissioner Wetter. I think she got you, but
I think so.
just a fraction of a second there. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. All right. Advisory Committee, Advisory Board updates. Administrator Kelly.
Thank you, sir. Again, it was just mentioned the broadband public meeting, which is tomorrow night at 7 in this room. Just wanted to make sure that we reminded of that. The last week here, I did have the opportunity to attend one day of the AMC Fall Policy Conference last Thursday. We were asked by AMC to present regarding a ARP panel that they put together, which included Aaron Hurley from NACO, just kind of talking through our experience and some of the discussions that we had in putting together our plan as we move forward. As they were working on their individual platforms for the policy, I thought a few things that were interesting. There was a presentation by Stearns County regarding solar, and they're experiencing some of the same issues we are, and Sherburne mentioned as well, regarding those 1 megawatt solar farms co-locating in the tax piece of it. So they were going to look to try and get some movement from AMC to help address that issue. Also, PARA provided a overview of the plans. There's also a 911 telecommunicators work group that's been formed. There's been some assessment to our discussion to look at potentially moving them from the PARA general plan into the correctional plan, which may have some implications as far as long-term staffing and retirements and so on. So more to come with that, but AMC is staying at the table and keeping us informed on that. So additionally, did receive some notification from the state that our pre-design report has been deemed sufficient, which means we can move forward on completing our grant application with deed for the dental clinic. So just received that this morning. So that's what I have for today. Thank you.
Commissioner Wetter?
Okay, September 7th was extension, and I and Commissioner DeLine were at that meeting. We talked about the Tri-County update and where we were going to have a horticulture educator, and it's looking good, but they're still waiting for something on paper, I guess, from Meeker County. 4-H has 633 members and 19 clubs, and it's one of the 3 counties that actually grew during COVID years. And let's see, Master Gardener sign up is due on October 1st, and 4-H is also going to have some promotional open houses coming up here in September, and then several in October. Then on the 13th, I attended the SWCD meeting, And it was sort of interesting, one of the main ideas was the water quality trading pilot program. And this kind of got my anger up anyways, because this is between Bowser and the MPCA. What they want to do is have Wright County be the pilot in this. What would happen is that cities, because of their wastewater treatment plants being so expensive to update in that they could buy credits from farmers who had already done projects in water quality, and thus make it easier for them, which most of the board sat there and were really upset with this, because here the farmer has paid and done these projects for water quality on their farm, and now the cities are getting by buying credits from the farmer and not improving their wastewater, when those of us living out in the country, we have to do our own septic systems and keep them up ourselves. And if one is doing good and the other one isn't doing good, that doesn't seem like it makes sense, you know, that they also the cities should be improving their wastewater systems. It just doesn't seem practical if we're supposed to try to be improving our water. So we instructed Luke Johnson, which is to look into it and get more information from Bowser and PCA. So we'll see where that goes. Both the Mississippi St. Cloud and the South Fork Crow River One Watershed One plans are going to receive money for their for planning. So that has been approved. And also on the decontamination unit, I guess it's developed a leak, so they're going to have to be doing some repairs in it, and that's yet to be known how expensive that might be.
I think it'd be under warranty. It's so new.
I honestly don't know. I don't know that, but I thought since we're paid for it, would want to know that. And on the 14th. Was the Wright County, the WCCA anyways, and it was mainly on Head Start, 4% increase in the kids were participating, and so as a result, they'll get an increase also in their food amount. I guess they monitor every year, but the state monitors them every 3 years, and it looks like they'll be coming in person this year because COVID is less, but...
It's not the state, Mayor, it's the feds.
It's the feds? Okay, the feds will. I'm sorry.
And that's for Head Start.
Yeah, and that's for Head Start. So they're going to come in and look it over. They also got a letter of vaccination mandates, and they're right now kind of just sitting on it because they've had no guidance on it yet. And
that's for Head Start kids.
Yep.
Or Head Start teachers.
Is it a USDA or a Department of Education audit?
It's the Head Start audit.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if they're getting. I didn't know if they're getting a food audit on their food from the USDA, because they do that every so often too.
No, the Head Start does it all.
Within themselves, yeah.
They have their own audit people.
The food shelf tracking report, I guess they had more than 30,000 frozen meals in J&B, And so they're gonna try and disperse that as quickly as possible because they only keep them for 6 months. They're only good that long is what they've determined, so. Then on the 15th, I had the Historical Society meeting. And what they're doing is going to be raising the membership fees. They're finding they need a little bit more money to keep their operations going. And that would be from 20 to 25 for individuals and family, and businesses would be from 35 to 40. This will go before the full membership to be voting on this in October at their annual meeting. They're also working on their web, and what they'd like to do is get some sort of information that only the membership could get this information, but then there'd also be information that anybody could get. Now the question was, they're going to go ahead with their Festival of Trees. And what was proposed by the manager was that the 5 county commissioners would each individually decorate a tree. They would supply the tree, and then people could come through. Besides looking at the other trees, they could vote on which tree they thought was actually the best.
I don't know, who has the most competitive nature on this board?
So, I mean, you could get your wife to do it, or your husband, or whatever.
My wife does not want to do that.
Just so you guys are aware, I won the last time they had one, so just.
Oh, when
so
was
you know.
that?
Mark, you realize how many Christmas trees I've decorated in my life?
Oh,
Just saying, I won the last one.
I've done over 50.
I have a storage unit of Christmas decorations.
Oh, boy.
So anyways, you know, any theme, I think
They like themes.
I'll hear more from Sally, but it would be a 4-foot, about a 4-foot tree that they would supply for
Kind of a little
you.
one.
So you just have to come in with the decorations. So,
And this is at,
at the Historical Society,
because they're also going to be doing the same type of thing with Wright County Committee Action.
really? Okay. 2 trees?
They always have the competition.
Well, they didn't do it with the commissioners, but they'll.
Yeah.
Oh,
They always
okay.
do a competition between State Patrol, Wright County Sheriff's Office, and the 3 PDs. So then you can vote on those.
And I guess the whole idea was, the manager had heard from a lot of people that didn't even know, that were staff people at the county here, that didn't even know that this was going on. And so they were thinking maybe to get more participation and knowledge out there that this is going on, and it's free. I mean, people come in and,
It's really, really impressive.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
It is neat with all the
is,
trees that
yeah.
are out there.
yes.
But it's impressive.
So, I don't know, are you interested in doing that or not?
Are you throwing the gauntlet out?
Yep.
Send me
Well,
more
if
info.
nothing else, we
Let me
can
know.
have
When do we need
Greg do one.
When do we need it?
I honestly don't know, I have to talk to Sally. She
Sometime
was
in December.
she just kind of threw that out.
You know, what would be even better is if you would have all the department heads do it, because that's even
Oh,
more
boy.
people.
Well,
And then their employees would go and vote. And
Oh, boy.
Suggesting in the future,
I got 3 employees, that's not fair.
That's what I'm saying. The
Didn't
sheriff's
say
gonna
anything.
win for sure then.
suggesting possibly that in the future, you know? Just to get the county more involved.
Then I'm gonna need some more employees.
All right, anything else?
Well, are you interested? Should I tell her yes?
Get us
no?
more information,
Yeah,
like
right.
when and
Give us-
details.
Give us a minute to think about this.
A minute?
Well, when do we,
Squeeze a week.
when do we have to have it done by?
Yeah,
Is the
I'll
question.
find out that, but
Yeah,
I
'cause
think
if it's next week, I just don't have the time.
I think it's usually around Thanksgiving time to to January, into January,
It
that they let it
runs for
set
a
up.
few weeks.
So you've got some time to think about it. And then we had a mayor's meeting that night also in Monticello, and Chad Hausman, the assistant county engineer, presented on the local option sales tax. And there were questions and they were answered, and 3 of us were there. Commissioner Ketchmark, Vetch, and I were there, so it looked pretty good.
Yeah, good.
And then yesterday, I listened to, through AMC, Isaac Walton League Upper Mississippi River Initiative. And what they're trying to do is just get dialogue out there that, hey, this makes sense. I don't know why anyways. They want county drainage authority that they should take into account cumulative and also downstream effects when they're doing their drainage. So I thought, yeah, well, it makes sense that, anything from up above will drain down, and that could cause flooding. So I kind of thought, okay. But that's the end, finally.
Commissioner Vetch?
So 2 weeks back on the 9th, we had Trailblazer. Short and sweet of it is we spent a great deal of time talking about the difficult labor market. We're over 20 open positions at Trailblazer, which brutal. We did make a market rate adjustment. What was it, back in August, Mark? I don't know.
Yeah, July or August.
July or August. So still struggling with that, and then in addition, we're still struggling on getting software that meets the needs of the organization. It's getting closer, but still probably a long ways away. Also then,
What is their main excuse for not being able to get people?
Well,
what's the main problem there?
the main problem from it is largely it's a licensed position. You have to have a commercial driver's license. So we did make some changes for it because
Which I thought we did. I think that's a great change that we made.
Yep, because historically people would be hired, and typically it takes about 60 days to get a commercial license. So a lot of these people sat on the bench, and most of them would end up finding other employment because they can't not work for 60 days till they could get into and do all the requirements and get the commercial license. So what we just changed this last one is we created an interim position where they can work in shadow drivers and actually get paid, so that they're getting paid while they're working to get their license, and then we gave them a period of time for that to be happened. If they don't finish it within that period of time, then
I guess why I'm asking that is the media keeps saying they can't get bus drivers and that, and they're not really given the correct reason.
Well, I'm not sure about bus drivers, but regarding this, you have to take behind the wheel in order to take the test.
and you have to take a written test, and you have some study time, some classroom time, and then you have to have, like you said, so many hours behind the wheel. And historically before, we would be like, okay, we'll hire you, here's all the things you have to do, and
we'll pay you
once you get it. Well, a lot of people are like, well, it's gonna take too long for us to get all that, I gotta work in the meantime, so they end up finding other employment.
Okay.
So now we basically said, okay, we'll pay you to go through this process, and we'll help you walk your hand through that process. So we're hoping that'll have a little bit better benefit for us and a better turnout.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
So-
sorry.
No, that's all right. Good
Interrupted
question.
you
No.
But I'm getting a little angry at media not really stating the reasons why there aren't school bus drivers and other
I'm not sure.
other people that need to have a CDL license, and
I'm not sure anybody really knows exactly why that is the case, other than people just aren't applying for jobs.
yeah, that's true too.
And instead of follow up a little bit on the Mayor's Association dinner, collectively, I would say that there was a large amount of support for the local option sales tax from the mayors that were in attendance, just because they've really seen the benefit of the projects in their communities across the county. Even those of them that haven't seen a project in their community with it yet, see that there's some coming their direction in due time. So, like that to be noted. And then also the last week, Wright County Economic Development Partnership met. They're working on that grant with deed for business counseling services, which we discussed the other day at the ARP meeting. And then they're also working on polling all of the partner members on goal setting and figuring out what initiatives that, from a high level perspective, that the organization should tackle going forward, because they haven't done any kind of goal setting with the partners in a long time. With that, Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
Just a couple of parks things. Bertram met on, Bertram Park Advisory met on the 10th. They had, the Monticello had a state championship out there with soccer, and it went extremely well. They asked what they would like to see change by the people, MYSA, and they said nothing. They were extremely happy with the facilities out there. And it's not complete yet either, so they were very impressed. And then the nature-based education operationals update out there is they're full and they have waiting lists. So the Monticello School District is using the chalet out there and the YMCA building and one of our storage facilities for different nature-based educations, and they have waiting lists. So it's doing very well out there on that.
Good.
Parks met on the 13th and talked about the construction sites, the different improvements that they're going on, and about the comprehensive system master plan, and the updates of this year, what's being done. The campgrounds were all up over the year, so it was very good. We set the 22-year camping season dates for when it will be open and what date that they will be doing the online reservations. Set the 2022 date. They use park operational dates, and provided us with an overview of the programs and events for this coming winter, regarding different cross-country skiing, hiking events, Valentine dinner out at Nave Park, and a hiking event, dog sledding, which is always a very popular one, and that's done at Nave Park. Hopefully we will have, snow one of these years.
Maybe.
I took my grandkids out there and they had a blast. Dog's very friendly, and they really enjoyed riding in that dog sled. So that's enough. Go ahead, Commissioner Houston.
Oh, all right. So the Public Works Labor Management Committee met on September 9th out at the Highway Building, and we got some updates. They said the county fair went very well. They also are going ahead this year again, doing their Silent Santa, which they've participated in for a lot of years. Parks, roads, maintenance are all busy. They're shouldering now. They're getting salt in. A new paver is coming. And the survey crews have been out replacing markers that were taken out in the road construction. They did 53 plats this year. They're still trying to fill a vacant technician position. I'm not sure if that's been filled since. And County Road 118 should be done in October with a big retaining wall. They talked a bit about the Otsego shop expansion and are also doing more brush mowing and spraying, but have that issue with the organic farmers not wanting them to do the spraying. So that gets to be a little something. The Safe Communities of Wright County met on September 10th. We applied for a 2021 Toward Zero Death grant, and we were happy to find out yesterday that we did receive that grant. And that will be used, the activities used will be speed, preventive, and risk, impaired and distracted driving, prevention and risk, and also expanding the sober cab ride. And of course, the 4 disciplines that are at our meetings or we discuss are the EMS, engineering, education, and enforcement. They had the crashed car out at the Prairie Festival in Otsego and the Albertville Open Streets. They had the DWI campaign. They had a lot of arrests in Wright County. And the upcoming campaign, which is starting on the 19th through the 30th, will be on seatbelt and child restraints. So, of course, you know, sadly, when you hear about these crashes of the last 2 semis, I understand that I'm not sure if they were wearing their seatbelts, so that, wear your seatbelts. And Minnesota Jobs and Training also met on the 10th. And according to the statistics, they say that unemployment in Minnesota is only at 3.4%, which is essentially like fully employed. So what they're basing those numbers on, I'm not sure, because there's so many, you know, we need workers, and it seems like we can't get them. So the CMJTS office is open in Monticello, also in Hutchinson and Cambridge, but others are still by appointment. A lot of grant information I can just leave on the table. They did also talk about a deed listening session, and they asked some pointed questions and, you know, like what to do after the pandemic, but they seem to be so concentrated on the metro always, and, you know, we need to get more help in the outstate for all that. And I think that was about it. Yeah, I can leave the grants and that kind of information. There was a large company in Elk River that's closing, so they're going to be losing 180 we'll have 180 really dislocated workers, and they'll be closing in April of 2022. So that's something that we'll be working with, and that's about it.
Mr. Ketchmark.
Yes, well, had the Fair Board meeting last week, and one thing that came out of that, the motion was made to continue having 17 and under not pay admission at the county fair, and it passed.
Okay.
So going forward,
Nice.
that's the way it'll be until further notice at some point. But they were happy with that, and the rest has already been talked to by other members. And Commissioner Wetter, my Christmas tree will resemble a Charlie Brown Christmas tree.
Ah.
Just for information.
He's already got that plan. He only needed a minute.
Yeah.
That's right. That's all I had.
All right, does anybody else have anything? If not, we are adjourned at 10:48.